Thank you for staying with us. The AU High Representative for Infrastructure Development in Africa, Raila Odinga, is expected to open the 31st meeting of the Northern Corridor in Mombasa. Among other issues to be discussed is the improvement of connectivity among member countries. And Francis Mtalaki is there. I think he's joining us live from Mombasa. Mtalaki, good morning. How much of an impact will this have in business in the region?
Well, quite a huge, big impact in terms of business that is expected in terms of the Northern Corridor once complete. But how Kenya is going to benefit, given that most of the construction begins here in Mombasa and specifically at the port of Mombasa. And with me is the CS James Macharia, who we understand that he's going to take the mantle for the next 2 years to head the Council of Ministers. I think he was speaking to Citizen TV. And tell us the importance of this 31st meeting.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Mtalaki. I think for Kenya, we are very privileged to be the host this year of this 31st meeting of Council of Ministers for the Northern Corridor Transit and Transport Coordination Authority. As you know, this authority brings together 5 countries. We have Kenya, we have Uganda, you have Rwanda, you have Burundi, you have Southern Sudan, and we have DRC. This corridor is extremely important for us because in terms of trade, in terms of integration, it brings together these countries. And more importantly, the genesis of this corridor is here, Mombasa, where we are meeting right now. And because of that, Kenya is actually the biggest beneficiary, because all the goods coming into these 5 countries have come through Mombasa as a gateway into Eastern Africa. And so we are here. This time we are vice chair, but during the meeting we shall be taking over the mantle of chairmanship. And because, like I said, we are the biggest beneficiary, we are able to tailor the policies, the interventions, the investments of this corridor to suit us better. From here in Mombasa into Nairobi, into the west, Kisumu, Malaba, into Kampala, into the other countries. And this is very important because it's also very much aligned to what we call the Belt and Road corridor, which, as you know, a lot of investment by the Chinese government is taking place right now.
And there seems to be a challenge in terms of the 2 connectivities, one that connects Mombasa all the way to Juba, and the one that leads to Kigali and Bujumbura and towards the DRC. How important would it be in terms of when you take the mantle, making sure that this connectivity has been, the challenges that are there also have been able to be dealt with?
In actual fact, that's why we are meeting. This Council of Ministers is meeting to basically discuss what has been achieved so far, and if there are issues or challenges facing the corridor, like we just mentioned. That's why the meeting is being held at the highest level of ministers. And we're also privileged because in terms of the wider African Union, we shall be having right along our former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga, coming to address this gathering, because we're not just looking at these 5 countries in terms of connectivity, whether it's Juba or Kampala, but we are looking at the corridor going all the way into the west coast of Africa. And that's why we have invited Right Honorable Raila Odinga, so that we can have a broader perspective as to what this corridor means to not just the 5 countries, but also the greater African integration.
But we're also seeing the other side of the story is that we have SGR, which is now heading to Uganda. What is your make of this?
Well, I think now this kind of meeting today, vindicates our earlier planned investments in the SGR, because SGR was never going to be just a Kenyan investment. It is an investment which, for it to be viable, we had to loop in all these other countries. And so, like we said before, we are doing the railway in phases. We have done phase 1, completed, and now is moving very well from Nairobi to Mombasa. We are now 98% complete to Naivasha. And then, as you know, we are also considering the connectivity now to the border with Uganda, initially through the meter gauge, and then as we plan to do the SGR to Kisumu. And so this railway investment, we have to emphasize, it is accurate a regional investment. That's why we have what we call the Northern Corridor SGR cluster, which is not even chaired by ourselves. is actually chaired by Uganda, because we look at this SGR as a regional investment.
And lastly, maybe to the other part of this coastal line, LAPSSET, which is also a key component in terms of making sure that the regional countries that are there can be able to benefit from the Northern Corridor. Once complete the port of Lamu, is it something that you're looking to make sure that the Juba and other countries can be able to benefit, and how?
Yes, indeed, LAPSSET corridor is also extremely important for us, because as you can see, Mombasa is extremely busy. It's reaching saturation point, with now about 32 million tons of cargo coming every year. So with that, we have to strategically look at other options. And that's why we looked at Lamu Port, which has got very strong natural attributes as a natural port. And so already we have invested in putting together 3 berths, which the first one is completed. The other 3 will be completed by April next year. And this is another corridor which will supplement or complement this Northern Corridor. LAPSSET starting from Lamu, going to Isiolo. One branch goes to Moyale, the other branch goes to Nakadok in southern Sudan. And this is what you open up the entire country. Because with Northern Corridor and with the LAPSSET Corridor, Kenya is covered about 80% in terms of development. And also it will bring in the bigger market of Ethiopia, LAPSSET, which as you know is over 100 million people. And so with a wider coverage, taking Northern Corridor, taking LAPSSET corridor, we shall have a very big market. And this is what integration means in terms of development.
And in the East African market, there seems to a baby that in terms of all this development, he is not there. Tanzania, as the incoming chair, in terms of the PSS and the ministers, are you looking to approach them, possibly maybe to join?
Well, indeed, I will let you know that already we have engaged Tanzania at my level and the presidential level. And we shall be actually be inviting my counterpart from Tanzania to join me in Kisumu in the next few weeks, to basically see how Kisumu is positioned as a corridor entry into this region of the West. And with that meeting, which will be involving the same ministers I'm talking about, I'll be extending invitation to my counterpart in Tanzania, actually following the engagement of our President Uhuru Kenyatta and President Magufuli. And so we are looking at making sure nobody is left behind.
Will this be an advantage to Kenya or a disadvantage, given that we have a port, they have a port, and most of the things that Kenya does are more the same in terms of infrastructure and development, in terms of the maritime business?
Well, you have to look at Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania and these other countries complementing each other. That's how we look at it. And we are looking at Tanzania as a complement, as a sister company, as a sister country to our country, Kenya. And so we are looking at them as partners, not as competitors.
Thank you so much, Waziri. That was James Macharia speaking to us, the incoming chair for this Northern Corridor. And as he says that any moment from now, we expect the AU representative, that is Honorable Raila Odinga, to be coming here. And then the meeting will begin. And then we'll be keeping you posted on what is happening here in Mombasa County in terms of the Northern Corridor. Back to you.